Please read the disclaimer. What could XRP's price do if Clarity Act is passed? Hello, beautiful people. Shalom, money makers. It's Saturday, and we witnessed yesterday the very interesting whole situation with the Supreme Court and Trump, and we saw how the crypto market reacted, or actually kind of did not react to that whole ordeal. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about how, interestingly, the past 2 weekends or going into the weekend had been very, very volatile. And yesterday was not as volatile as expected for the crypto market. Is that good? Is that bad? We're also going to talk about an interesting update in an AI company that just tanked some other companies, and how that is just a reminder that things are changing and we need to be on our toes about our investments and how we are distributing our assets. And one little thing about traffic potentially coming to XRPL. We'll get to that as well. All I ask from you is that you give me a beautiful smile, send out those good vibes, smishity smash that like button, and let's get into it. So currently, XRP is sitting at $1.43, right? The price of XRP going into this weekend, right, has not been as volatile as previous weekends, where, for example, 2 weeks ago, of course, we had the Thursday sell-off, then the Friday pop, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday there wasn't a lot of action. Last week we ran into the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday were very, very hot and heavy for XRP. And then this week we saw that slow sell-off here, the sludge that was happening. And now we saw Friday, yesterday was okay, but there wasn't really anything too drastic happening here for XRP. And right now, XRP is still with this, if we're looking at the technicals, right? All the short term and medium term and long term are giving us the red signal. And the whole moving average, interesting, and the volume weighted average on the 20 and the 9-day time frame are giving us a buy. And if we're going to the oscillators, we have neutral and 2 buys on momentum and MACD. Very interesting. So the moving averages are actually giving us a strong sell, but the oscillators are giving us a buy signal here. So very interesting. If we go to Bitcoin, it's something similar, although it's a little bit worse, right, than XRP. And Ethereum, also something similar to that. Currently, Bitcoin is sitting at 67,000. So it was able to bounce off of that support zone. I keep forgetting that I forgot my camera. Right? I always pull down the screen to see a little bit better, because I have 2 screens, but one's behind the other here with the setup, and these numbers are small. So we got 65,000 was the low here, the support zone, and it was able to bounce off of that. Ethereum also has this 2,000 level, which is it's entertaining, and Solana also had that dip under 80, but was able to pop up of that. If we look at precious metals and what's happening there, interestingly, silver was able over the past few days to go from 72 all the way back to 84. So it seems that precious metals are heating up again, 17% in 5 days. It's nothing compared to what we saw a few weeks ago, when just the silver market was going crazy, and we were having 15-20% in daily movements. It's cooled off a little bit, but we did see it recover and then sell off a little bit. So it will be very interesting to see, does the silver market do something like this for a while, right? Or is it going to recover off of here and give a little bit of pop? A lot of that could, again, have to do with what's going to happen in the Middle East in the next coming weeks. Again, we still have that timeline that President Trump gave to Iran, and that could, move things a little bit in the markets. There's no way around it. If there is an operation that is launched, then that could freak out the markets, and depending on how it finishes or starts, or how long it goes on, could affect the markets. We've talked about my theory that the Iranian government owns a significant amount of crypto. So what happens if they decide to start you know, shorting the market or selling their assets. What happens there? If you remember a while back when there was the first attack from Iran and Israel, they there was only a few ballistic missiles, and they send these very slow missiles that took a long time, like 3 hours to arrive, or even it was more time. It was like 8 hours to arrive, and drones. And the market started selling off as like there wasn't really news that it was happening yet, and the market already started tanking. There was a lot of shorting going on, and back then, my theory was that they were making money off of shorts. They knew that it was happening. They were putting pressure. They were selling. They were probably leveraged there, and they were creating wealth. For who? That's the question, right? They're in their government, but it was a very interesting outcome there. And so we might see something similar this time around. We have to take that into consideration as well. There's a lot of factors, a lot of moving parts. And if we are short term investing, day trading, even swing trading, we need to take that into consideration. All right. If we're long term investing, again, we'll get to Ripple in just a second and potential traffic there on XRPL. But right now, if you look at the price of XRP, does it change your outlook on XRP? No. But tomorrow, news could come out that does. So again, we have to be dynamic. We have to understand the risks and rewards. As always, I just want to remind you that this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Also, remember that I will never contact you on social media asking you to sign up to anything, to send me anything. Those are scammers. Those are imposters. It's not me. I won't DM you. I won't send you any messages. Please be very careful out there. Also, if you see like in the replies, sometimes there'll be these fake comments. I try to hide them, but it doesn't happen every single time. So if you see them, it's not me. Okay, just be very careful out there. This is an interesting headline and a story that crypto firms are exploring bank acquisitions as a shortcut into regulated finance. Buying a bank gives instant access to customers' deposits and regulatory license faster than applying for a banking charter. We know that Ripple has already applied for the banking charter, but this will be very interesting to see if this happens in the future. We know that many of the crypto firms have enough capital to do so. Will the regulators allow this type of purchase? And would this kind of be a backdoor Clarity Act kind of situation if Clarity Act does not pass in the end? So that could be very interesting going forward. We'll see if we have any acquisitions like this. It would potentially speed up the process, between the crypto firms and the banks, and potential transfers of money from your savings checking accounts to crypto firms. And it will also open up a lot of possibilities. We'll see. We'll see if that happens, if the regulators allow it. The SEC is going to ease rules on broker stablecoins holdings. The SEC has made its slight policy changes under its Project Crypto work, allowing broker dealers to treat certain stablecoins as capital. A minor tweak on paper, but potentially big for institutional stablecoin adoptions. This situation, the stablecoin situation, is moving forward. Like, this is going to happen. The adoption of stablecoin is going to happen, and in a big way. The government is pushing for this heavily because of what stablecoins do to back themselves buying U.S. Treasuries. They want that. They want that to happen. And when you see all the work that's being happened in the crypto market and where we were, 10 months ago, 15 months ago already, how long? Yeah, about September, November, October, November of 2024, right? We were in a totally different situation. And of course, XRP's price reflected that, right? We were at 50 cents. But Bitcoin was in an okay situation, similar to where we are right now. Has something changed for Bitcoin? Right? If you think about it, the US is going to be creating a Bitcoin reserve. The laws for stablecoins have been better, but for Bitcoin specifically, nothing really good out of that has happened. And so it makes sense when you think about it, reflecting the price of Bitcoin, that it's similar to where it was back then. If we go to Ethereum, also for Ethereum, nothing has really changed since that October of 2024, November of 2024. The price is even lower than it was then. Of course, now we have Ethereum ETFs. We have Bitmine and companies similar that have been accumulating Ethereum. And so it's, again, strange that we've seen such a sell-off. But for XRP, if you look at it in October, November of 2024, the situation was a lot more bleak. We didn't know what's going to happen. We didn't know what's going to happen with the SEC. We didn't know what's going to happen with Ripple. And now the situation is a lot better. Ripple has seen the cloud of the potential XRP being classified as a security off the table entirely. The regulations, the banks have changed. There was many things that the SEC removed that were not allowing banks to transact with crypto firms, with cryptocurrency in general. All that is removed. So you could say maybe that was good. That's good for crypto, for Bitcoin and Ethereum. For XRP, there's still a lot of good things that happen. So the price is a lot better. So we were at 50 cents. We're still about 3x. So if we were at 1.5, it would be 3x. The price of XRP is a lot better. Yes, maybe it was, overbought, or the price went up too fast, but the price is still a lot better than we were back here. And yes, we would, of course, want the price to be at 3.6 or at 4 and 5, and we'll get to the Clarity Act in just a second, but we're doing a lot better. We're seeing a lot of things change, right? And things can change in a blink of an eye, right? There was just a tweet that came out from Claude saying, introducing Claude Security, now limited research preview. It scans code bases for vulnerability and suggests targeted software patches for human review, allowing teams to find and fix issues that traditional tools often mix. And what happened? Companies that give similar services, their stocks tanked, right? Because if Claude can do it, right, and AI can do it, so why would you go with CrowdStrike or Cloudflare, right? If you can just run Claude at potentially a cheaper cost. And so you have this situation right now where anything can change, right? Something can come out and totally change XRP, totally change Ripple, totally change the crypto market. And then we could see the market flipping, right? We just got data here from, actually, it's not really data, it's from AI that explaining that G Treasury latest report data that they had processed 12.5 trillion in payments annually. This equates to an average daily volume about 34.25 billion. Potentially all that coming to the XRP ledger. Now, not yet, but potentially that could be happening. Now, things can change again. Things going forward are looking a lot better for Ripple, for XRP, but things can change. Again, we have to remember that. And I saw this article, and it's getting a lot of action and traction from Crypto Basic here, talking about the potential of the Clarity Act and what happens if XRP achieves integration with US banks. Now, we've talked about this in the past. I am a big critic of talking about XRP with the triple digits before, when we're still at $1.42, right? But talking about the low end here of $5 is okay in my book, because we have seen crypto in the past do similar movements on news, right? We saw XRP go from 50 cents all the way up to $3, which was a 6x run on the Trump winning the election and the SEC potential of removing the case, and Gary Gensler resigning from his role as the chairman of the SEC. And so all that fueled a 6x run in a very short period of time. So could potentially a Clarity Act announcement give us a 6x, right, potential move? If we do it and we say 1.5 times 6, right, that would bring us to 9, best case scenario. So we'd be looking for a potential, let's say, 5 to 10 type of move, right? So that's the first one here, the first option. The passing of the Clarity Act would formally codify XRP as digital commodity, removing the regulatory risk premium that has surpassed its price for years. The metric, regulatory clarity, institution access. The rationale: once XRP is legally on par with Bitcoin and Ethereum in the US, institution allocators and conservative banks that were sidelined can hold the asset. A move to this range represents the catch-up growth, bringing XRP's market cap in line with other major clear digital assets, right? And so that is a potential that could come if the Clarity Act passed and there's a lot of excitement and the crypto market recovers and money starts flowing in and people are excited and everything's happening. And I think that that is the best case scenario for Clarity Act passing and the price action after that, let's say the next 6 to 12 months. I think that's the best case scenario for us. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it will be a lot more, and many people will be a lot happier. I have learned to be more realistic in the predictions. I've learned that you always have the monkey on your shoulder. Maybe Clarity Act passes, and then World War III kicks off. Who knows, right? And that, everything's terrible for the next year. Could happen, right? So I'm always thinking about the possibilities, but I'm also thinking about the bad things that could happen, just because, again, what have I experienced in my life? I am a very optimistic person, but I'm careful because I've seen a lot of things flip. I've seen a lot of things many times. I was very optimistic. I was like, no, everything's going to be amazing. And then something happened. So we never know, and we have to be ready for that. Again, you have to have a plan in place for what happens if Clarity Act does this, and that happens, and we drop to X. What happens? What am I doing? Okay. You don't have to do 1,300 scenarios, but with AI, it's kind of actually easy. You give them parameters, you give them possibilities, and price action, and you can use it to help you out, right? The operation utility, right? Let me go to the other side. Can I do this? Yeah. Okay. This scenario assumes that full regulatory clarity leads to integration of XRP into domestic payment rails. Now, this is a very optimistic thing, such as being used by tier 1 banks for internal liquidity management. The metric integration with US banking network, the rationale for banks to settle, scale, transfer instantly. The liquidity pool must be deep. If XRP is at $1.40, a 1 billion transfer would consume a massive portion of available exchange liquidity, causing extreme price volatility. Slippage at the price of potentially $20 or more. The asset becomes thick enough to facilitate multi-billion-dollar banking settlements without disrupting the market. Okay, so if that potential happens, then the price could be pushed up to that area in order to make the transactions easier. Okay, this is a little bit far-fetched. Maybe something like this happens. We'll see down the line. Again, a lot of these things that have been raised and the theories by some other YouTubers that were claiming triple digits by the end of 2025, they're very out there, they're very outlandish. They make sense when you explain it, like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? But in reality, a lot of these things, there's low potential of them happening. The first scenario is a lot more viable, right? Second scenario, lower probability, much lower probability, but we'll see what happens. And the potential of the 100 plus in the most bullish hypothetical scenario, where the Clarity Act enables XRP to act as the primary liquidity layer for the US banking network, and the price must scale to the value of the money it's moving. All money moves on the rails of XRPL and through Ripple, and it's a whole celebration, right? Very, very low probability that actually happens. But maybe, right? We never know. But I'm just telling you the low probability. So if you're looking at those scenarios, that's what you have to take into consideration. Maybe the people that are calling for this are right, but it's a very broad spectrum between $5 to $100. That's a 20x run. Can that happen? It's happened in the past, right? But for an asset that is worth right now 87 billion, right? So let's theoretically, and again, this could happen, right? It could happen, but we have 87 times 25. So that brings XRP to 2.17 trillion, right? Could that happen? It could happen. Or is it 21 trillion? No, 1,000 billion is a trillion. Yeah. 2.17 trillion. Could XRP get to that level? Maybe. Is Bitcoin still at 1.36, or is it Bitcoin at 5 trillion? If Bitcoin is at 5 trillion, then yes, potentially. But remember, right now, the scale between the two is about a 10x difference, right? A little bit more. So if Bitcoin is XRP is at 2 trillion, does that mean that Bitcoin is at 10 trillion? Are we at 600,000 at that point? again, that is a possibility. People are calling for 1 million Bitcoin. So there's nothing off the table. These scenarios could happen, but we don't know when. Is it in 5, 10 years? And what changes by that time? So there's a lot of factors. We don't know what's happening. The world is changing. Yes, in 2014, 15, the world was one way. Now the world is different. Things can change. So we have to take everything into consideration, everything on the table. Again, I think the higher scale right now is very low probability, but it could happen again in a longer time frame. In the shorter time frame, I'm talking about the next 12 months, 18 months. This could be a possibility. We'll see once Clarity Act passes. Oh, if it passes, it might not pass, right? But 90% probability according to people on the ground. So it is a possibility that we see the Clarity Act eventually passing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the next couple of weeks play out, how the crypto market plays out. I know that it's been a struggle. I know that it's been hard. It's been hard on me too. It's been hard, looking at the prices, and maybe it's not where we wanted it. But remember when the prices were here back in December, we were really happy because we just went from 50 cents to 1.5. We were up 3x on the position. We were so happy, right? But right now, because we're down from the high, people are getting discouraged. And I liked 60% from the high. And I liked what this SEC chairman said. He says, just because the price action is down doesn't mean that we need to stop, working on crypto framework and crypto laws and clarity, because the prices can recover, right? We've seen this happen in the past. This is what happens many times is investors, when the prices are low and they see that the demand is low, maybe they'll be like, okay, let's have less investment, right? I get less emails right now, offering sponsorships, even though I don't really take sponsorships. I just have, partnerships with, companies and websites, exchanges and things like that. But I don't really do sponsorships. And I'm seeing that there's a lot less emails than, back in July, right? There's a lot more. So right now, there's a lot less money going to crypto marketing because people say, oh, the prices are down, so people aren't interested. When are they interested? They're interested when things are running up, when there's a lot of FOMO, and that's usually some of the worst times to buy historically, because then the market pulls back off of that when the FOMO is really, really, really strong. And when crypto videos are getting 300, 400,000 views like that, that means right now channels are struggling to get 20, 30,000. Like it's a struggle for million subscriber channels to get 20, 30,000 views. Think about that. They're at, what is that? 3%, 2% convergence of their subscribers, right? That's nothing. I have, let's say 170,000 and we get maybe 10,000. So we're at actually a lot better conversion than them. So it's a struggle right now, and people are trying to figure out where's the way to go. Some people are consolidating portfolios. Some people are doing other things, accumulating assets that they really like at these lower levels. We'll see. Again, I'm not a prophet. I don't know exactly how the market is going to play out long term. I'm still very, very bullish for crypto as one of my assets. Again, I'm a big believer in diversification. Hopefully you have the capacity to do your own research and to get your own type of flavor of investing that you feel is your own, right? Many people just fall into do what other people do. In the beginning, yeah, but after you get some experience, you start making your own, decisions and your own mistakes. And that's how you learn, and that's how you get better. Okay, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this week plays out. Don't forget to smash the like button. Check out the links in the description down below. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.